have one new message. Translating. Disney and Pixar's Hoppers is now available on Disney+.
You could say that again.
Critics are calling it Pixar's funniest movie ever and a wildly entertaining ride. Blizzard Potato. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
Now we party.
This is incredible!
Wow, I am clearing the rest of the day.
Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, now available on Disney+. Rated PG.
Right now, get up to 15% off select storage solutions. Put heavy-duty HDX totes to good use, protecting what's important to you. The solid, impact-resistant design prevents cracking, and the clear base and sides make items easy to find even when the totes are stacked. Find select shelving and tote storage up to 15% off at the Home Depot to organize every room in your home, from your garage to your attic. Visit HomeDepot.com. How doers get more done.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
Hello and welcome to episode 277 of the Washed Up Emo podcast. I am Tom Bowen from washedupemo.com. Today in the podcast, I welcome back 2 guests that have joined forces for a reissue on Solid Brass Records. It's the album Go Kid Go by Franklin. I'm joined by guitarist Brian Sokel from Franklin and the legend Sonny Kay from such bands as Angel Hair and the VSS. Yet, he's an amazing artist. So Sonny put this together, this Go Kid Go, remastered and expanded into something really, really special. Sonny, Brian, and I talk about the process of putting it together, the influx of reissues lately from this era, and what's new for them in their creative lives, including more artistic endeavors for Sonny and music from Brian with his band. I'll have all the links to the projects and the link to this release put up by the amazing people at Solid Brass Records in the description. This is episode 277 of the Washed Up Emo podcast with Brian Sokel and Sonny Kay, talking about Franklin's remastered and expanded reissue, Go Kid Go. Enjoy.
Hello.
What's up, Sonny?
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you.
Thanks for doing
Doing
this.
great. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I got Brian on the other line, so we're gonna merge and then have fun.
Great. Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
One second.
Sure.
I think we're merged.
All right.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm
Brian.
Hey, Sonny. What's up, man?
Good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to talk to you again. How have things been?
Things are good. Just trying to stay busy and loving being back in the Southwest.
That's awesome.
And just the life. What can I say?
Exactly.
So, how did you guys meet for the project?
Sonny and I met a long time ago when Franklin was actually on, I think maybe our first tour, and we were traveling through Denver, and we were on tour with a band called Fracture from Philly, and we didn't have a show, and we just sort of found out that there was a show in Denver, and Sonny was booking it, and we sort of drove up to the show, found out where it was, and sort of politely asked if maybe we could possibly play some songs. And I think it was Sonny. It was like Christie Front Drive. And
yes, they're the only band I remember for sure.
Yeah.
I should brush up on this, but I know whoever else is playing that night is gonna be real irritated that I don't remember, but it was awesome. Yeah. That was a really, really that wasn't the first time a band had rolled up and asked to play like that, and it wasn't always possible. And the fact that it was possible that night was really fortuitous for everybody, I think.
Yeah, we were very lucky to be able to do that. So yeah, we had met on those days, and then, obviously like running in similar circles and stuff. But Sonny and I, never really, we were always sort of around, but it's not as though Sonny and I were like constantly communicating and everything like that.
Yeah.
But when this project came up, folks at Solid Brass had said that they had done work with Sonny, and I've always been aware of Sonny's work with other projects that he's done, and obviously the Angel Hair repackaged thing was incredible. And they had just said, hey, we've worked with Sonny before. Would that be of interest to you? And the connection from having the story of basically showing up to that show is like, yeah, that's perfect reason alone to like kind of reconnect with Sonny and say, hey, man, you want to work together on something?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. For the sake of full disclosure, too, I mean, been in touch with Ralph pretty steadily for about 20 years now, ever since putting out the Highlight Savant records and just sort of having common interests. So it felt like I was not quite as, the 30 years that have passed didn't seem quite so, the whole thing wasn't quite so distant in my mind.
Right.
Just from having Ralph in my life pretty constantly. So, but it's amazing to reconnect with everybody, and just been back and forth with Brian a lot on this project, and it's been a lot of fun.
What was that like? Like, you're Brian, for you, you're reapproaching something that is getting relooked at, or like Dan, doing the remaster to it. You're kind of putting a different sheen on it, and then for you, Sonny, sort of taking those ideas and figuring out what to do with it for something like this.
Well, I mean, I think from the Franklin side of things, I think it's just really nice that the Solid Brass folks had even reached out and been interested in sort of that history. I mean, obviously there's a lot of that going on right now. But when someone actually says, hey, we think your band did some cool stuff, and we'd like to kind of, like you said, like sort of relook at it, recontextualize it and send it out there. It's just, you're just sort of flattered from that standpoint that something you made that long ago has any sort of longevity that someone would care. But then I think, but also like I've, from the band perspective, I was always sort of like the archivist of everything. So I've always had all of this stuff from that time period. And it's been funny because as like the internet and digital universe has sort of expanded over time, the technology's gotten better that you can share this stuff instead of having it sit in a box and nobody can see it. So really what ended up happening was not that long ago, I sort of was looking at all this stuff as I was going through an old storage unit. And I was like, man, I really should share this stuff with the other guys in the band, because they never even get to see it that much because it just sits in my files. And so I figured, the best way to do, a long time ago, I did this blog where I posted some of the stuff up. And then that kind of, people don't look at blogs so much. And then Instagram became this logical place to sort of put this stuff up as sort of a repository. And I just really wanted to be able to share it with the guys, and like they have families and they have kids. So there's some sort of reference that this stuff exists. And I think that sort of led to Solid Brass saying, hey, you're doing this stuff. What have you thought about doing anything with the music? So I sort of felt like this is awesome. And everybody in the guys all thought that, yeah, this is great. Like to be able to sort of, revisit and sort of give it a clean new home for this new age,
That's great. I mean, what was it like listening back to it? Was there like, I'm not going to tell anyone about this tape. We're just going to put this away.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always stuff in there that when we talked about doing this at all, the four of us who were at the time were on these recordings. We all had numerous conversations about, is this something that we actually is worthwhile doing? Just because somebody wants to do it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be done, So there was, there's sort of a little bit of like hemming and hawing and not being 100% sure that you want to put this kind of spotlight on it. You don't want to have like the sense of delusions of grandeur about what it is that you made. But when we talked to the Solid Brass folks, they were so kind in their words and everything, and it sort of felt like, yeah, like, you know, there are people that are interested, and why not sort of just put all the stuff in one package that's easily accessible for folks that may be interested. And so going back and listening to it, yeah, I mean, there's certainly things that you're like, man, I would have done that different. But then you think about, like, you know, the time that you were doing it, you're recording these records, and Sonny, you know this, it's like you're recording these records in like a day or like, or like 2 days, you know, it's like, let's go and record 10 songs and mix it in 48 hours. And we're going to sleep in the studio overnight and wake up, and then we're done. And it's not like you go back and edit it. It's not like when you get home and you have your mix, you're like, I don't really like that mix. Let's go back and fix it. That's just it. That's the recording. So, you know, there's a little bit of that, of just sort of like, wow, man, like I wish I could have done some stuff. But at the same time, you're proud of what you did. You know, you created something with your friends, and there's something that you felt like really good about, and it's cool that it can live on.
What about those chats once, you know, you've got the songs, they're sitting there, they're on these tapes that you've saved. What about those initial conversations with Sonny about what you wanted it to look like, what you wanted, the ideas, because those are always really fun conversations.
Well, yeah, I mean, Sonny and I, well, Sonny, you could say, like, we sort of like just sort of had a good conversation and just sort of chatted about those times and kind of what we wanted and what we didn't want, you know?
Yeah. And I think you and the rest of the band sort of had a fairly concise idea in mind of how you wanted this to turn out. I think from the beginning there was a, you know, I felt like, you know, especially these days, it's so many bells and whistles have evolved when it comes to this thing, to layout and designing anything really that didn't exist back then. And I just, when it comes to sort of capturing the spirit of the past, I just think it's good practice to try and, you know, as within reason, just kind of stick to the tools of that time. And you know, obviously, like, we weren't laying things out on desktop computers back then, but there's still you know, I felt like it was you know, keeping in the true nature of it all, to kind of not get carried away with you know, just the things that are possible. You know, if you look at what we wound up with, it's pretty, it's clean, and you know, I wouldn't say stripped down necessarily, but there isn't a lot of the images that were selected. I think carry a lot of weight and impact, and serve the purpose without, you know, in a lot of things like this, I think there's a real tendency to kind of throw in everything with the kitchen sink,
Right.
And make it a real time capsule of the group, which in many ways is great, and in a lot of examples has worked really fantastically. There's some killer discography releases that just are, you know, like whole scrapbook of the era, and you know, but not everything needs to be that way, and sometimes too much of the same thing just kind of starts to feel like that. And I think this package kind of took the less is more approach, and all of these interesting things that Brian's been talking about, that he's been unearthing, you know, can be shared in other ways. Like, this is you know, using social media and everything that's going on in the world these days, there's ways to utilize all this stuff in an interesting fashion in the service of the record, without necessarily needing to kind of like shove it all in that drawer, so to speak. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with that too, Sonny. And I think kind of goes back to the same thing. I think it just, when we sat down and talked about this, at least, you know, bandmates and I, there was just, I think there was a conscious sense amongst us that we're like, we didn't want to sort of like look at this as if it was something more than what it was, right? Like, you don't want to look back. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable looking back with some sort of ego and being like, oh my God, look what we did. All this needs to be documented in this like incredible whatever. Like you were saying, like, and again, there are some bands that's done for, and it's beautiful. And we just, for ourselves, I guess we just weren't comfortable with our own presence being portrayed that way. And so yeah, like our attack to it was kind of like less is more, definitely, where there was a couple things that kind of like stuck out from a design perspective. Like, there was always this photograph that's on the front cover that was taken at the 508 house in Toms River, New Jersey, which, you know, if you're not familiar with it, was this house where a bunch of people lived, and they put on shows around 95 and 96. And we played there a bunch of times, and it was basically like a home away from home. I mean, we just loved playing there. We loved the people that lived in that house, and there was just a whole community based around it. And so the photo that was on the front of it had floated around the internet occasionally, and I actually tracked down the guy who took the photo. His name's Brian Porner, and he had a bunch of other photos from the same show which I had never seen, and he was able to dig them up, I think, at his mom's house, and like sent them to me. And so it was just so cool to find these like unearthed items. And so having a photo like that on the front cover just sort of like felt in itself archival and right for us. And it sort of spoke volumes. It's just like, it's just a picture of us playing, and that just felt right and it feels right for the time for me. Like, with a lot of bands, just seeing a photo of a band playing seems to me to spell more and speak more about the band than any words that can be said, right? And so, like, on the back cover we did a picture of our van, because like we spent so much time in our van, and that van was like a fifth member of the band, so we wanted to like sort of like have that included. So yeah, it's just kind of like doing the things that we felt like were really sort of special to us, and leaving it a little bit like, yeah, like this is cool for the person who's interested in it, but it's not like something that needs to be treated with some sort of reverence that's like so important. Like, we're just a band like a million other bands out there that fortunately some people give a shit about, and that's great.
Yeah, I think that's really well said.
Sonny, or before you jump in, I was like, I fucking love that, because when I first saw it, I think I was the press release or something, I had initially thought that's what had come out initially. Like, I was like, oh, well, this is just the old cover, or the old
that's awesome.
So I was like, oh, this just, and then I'm like, oh, wait, this, and then it was like, then obviously I was paying attention more and realized, but initially when you look at it, it does look of the time. And I love, Sonny, what you talked about, and I want everybody to respond, is like that image selection of like, let's do less, let's have it not be this kitchen sink. And I do think that less is more, not necessarily diminishes what you guys did, but sort of says this is what we select that fits that time period. So I love that. The other thing I love is you talked about the prose. I feel like a lot of these are trying to be revisionist history New Yorker pieces, right?
I would agree with that.
And so it's like, I don't know, it reads like, I don't know, it just doesn't read to me in a way that feels connected to the time or the record. And I know there's ways that people approach things, and there's different ways to do storytelling. But the reason I reached out so quickly, the reason I wanted you both on is just because it felt like this could have slotted in 95 or 96, and it just happens to be 2026.
Well, that's actually really nice to hear, and it's cool. I'm sure Sonny feels the same way. It's like, to hear you say that when you saw it, it gave you some sort of like reconnection to something, because that's great. I mean, that's super cool, and it feels, and if it feels of the time or feels sort of present in that sort of experience, that's amazing. What better thing could be? And I think you're right about the idea of like, kind of goes to what I was saying, is like we didn't want to kind of like interpret what we were and sort of blow it out of proportion. We just kind of to say, hey, here's everything in one spot. Appreciate it if you do, and thank you for listening.
I think it's interesting too, in this like age of this sort of nostalgic re-releases that are largely mining sort of bands who by their very nature were humble at first and foremost, almost to a fault. in a lot of cases, and definitely kind of anonymous. And to see a lot of things sort of, and I'm not pointing fingers or anything. I just have noticed a trend towards a little bit of grandiosity, I guess, when it comes. Someone just mentioned sort of revisionist or like kind of rose-colored glasses kind of thing. I just noticed that with a lot of the reissue things, they're like so stacked with live photos and that kind of thing of, in many cases, groups that were never had a visual representation to begin with. And I just, I think you can have too much of a good thing. And these, like I said, it just starts the sort of like yearbook aspect of it is, it's cool sometimes. It's cool when it's really a group that, arguably everybody means something to someone, right? But I think, groups that maybe, it's not about numbers per se, but I think there are groups who sort of earned, through longevity and quality. I mean, the first example that comes to mind is Unwound. I think that band really earned every piece of respect and nostalgic embellishment that's gone on. I don't think there's that many bands like that, but a lot of them feel like they get that kind of treatment. Right.
And
I'm not trying to knock anybody.
No, definitely not. But like you said, there's certainly like of the time there was gradations, right? Like not everything lives at one level, and I guess it does become strange when there's this need to sort of feed this re-release universe, which again is great because we feel lucky to be included in it. But to put everything as if every single band and every single release was like this massive explosion of like something. It's weird. It's hard to figure out where you fit in when you participate in it. And
I agree.
I guess and that's the thing. Yeah. I guess that was with us. I guess we just felt like we wanted to err more on the side of trying to be more humble about it, I guess, and just sort of be like, I wanted. For myself, just to speak for myself, I kind of wanted it to just look like an archival piece. Like that was it. I just wanted it to be something that could sit on someone's shelf. That the front cover to me, like with the negative space, it looks like something that's could hang in like on a wall, and it's just a snapshot of something. And if you want to dig into it and it interests you, you could dig into it. But it really is just that. It's just a snapshot, and it doesn't have to have any more weight than that, and it's sort of left to the person who picks it up to decide whether they want to sort of dig further into it. And like Sonny, you were saying, if you said like, oh my God, this band Franklin I just discovered, I want to know everything about them. Well, there's other ways to find that out if you continue to dig and search, just like we did back in the day, but maybe not putting the package as like the, as if it was the second coming, which our band certainly was not.
The reason I brought it up, and I know everyone's kind of tiptoeing, or not really, but just I'm saying it out loud. I just think the approach that you're taking is what I appreciated, because you're right. These all are different levels of gradient. There is a different way, and I just think like this mining and everything's coming up gold. Like sometimes it's going to be cubic zirconium, and that's fine,
right.
And it's made in a lab, and it's fine, and it's available for people to listen to. And you're 100% right. There's ways. I feel like you want to have, like, you trusted labels back in the day to go to them, but I also feel like sometimes it feels exhausting because it doesn't feel like there's any difference. Like I can't see the scale of gradient. I don't know. I'm having trouble, and I was there. Like I'm having like, was really that was? And there's always something to learn. There's always something to be appreciative. But I just feel like that's what stuck out so much about what you're doing. And I just think this approach toward reissues. Now, I don't know. I just feel like they're going to take it all and move on to the next thing. And that's what it's kind of like hurts a little bit.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of that caution with labels for sure, and I hope they consider that, and but that's their business, I guess.
Yeah.
It's curious to hear you say that, actually, and I guess part of me actually really agrees with you. I hadn't really sort of formulated that phrase in my mind, but I think that's a real possibility, and it's in this having records for a few years myself, like just my motivation for doing it just seems so different than what drives the sort of nostalgic aspect of it.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with building and curating a catalog of things from the past. I think that's awesome and admirable. But me personally, the thing that I loved about being involved with putting out other bands' records was the real time involvement in their lives, and all of us,
as opposed to going through dusty files.
Yeah. It was about the here and now, and all of the excitement that comes with that. And I would be lying if I said I hadn't thought about contributing to sort of to what we're talking about myself. I mean, I could.
Right.
I just it doesn't appeal to me like it did when it was a real active part of my everyday existence, like knowing these bands, being in these bands, and just being around them and stuff. It's to have it be a retroactive thing just seems too abstract to me.
What I think the other thing I wanted to say was the word excuse. Like, it was an excuse for you to connect again. It was an excuse for you to talk, and it's an excuse for us to hang out on a Sunday for a little bit and connect about something and celebrate it. And when people listening, I just feel like it's an excuse to do that, and however they find it is great. I just think that's almost like the part that I like the most. Like, I have an excuse to hit up Jason from Solid Brass. I have an excuse to talk to you guys again. Like, that's kind of stuff.
I actually, that's an interesting thing, which makes me, I think if you were to ask the other guys in Franklin at the time, because like we had a different bass player later, but when with this era of Franklin, the four guys that made up that band, I was probably the impetus that kind of steered this to be like, hey, we should think about doing this, like, because another label had asked us a long time ago to do it, and we kind of thought about it, and it was in a discussion, and it kind of fell apart. And the other guys were kind of like, hey, whatever. But they weren't really like gung ho. They were kind of like, all right, cool, man, whatever. But I was kind of like, yeah, man, I want to do this because, again, I think because I was always sort of the archivist of this stuff, and I still play music right now. Like, I have a band and we release records, so I've kind of always been project based. Like, I want to work on something. I want to sort of do the work, And so Solid Brass asked us about it. I was like, oh, this is an awesome chance to kind of attack this project again that I kind of had in the back of my mind and that the guys were like on board with. Honestly, if you were, and I've said this to the guys, I said, the reality is, because I guess being somewhat humble too, like some of the guys in the band have been like, God, I hope the label sells any of these things. Is anybody going to want these? You know what I mean? Like, nobody fucking gave a shit when we were a band. Does anybody want it now? And I was like, well, and I was tell them, I was like, guys, if the label wants to do it, then there's probably an interest, But from my standpoint, I had told the guys, I said, this is just a great way for us to sort of celebrate something that we did together as four close friends 30 years ago. Yeah. And to take something that we created together, the whole, and pile it into one clean, fresh package that we can enjoy. To me, that was reason enough, right? Like, that was the real joy in doing this. And like you said, like, then being able to be like, when Jason at Solid Brass was like, oh yeah, do you by any chance know Sonny Kay? And we're like, yes, like, we would love to, of course, we'd love to talk to him and let's work with him and stuff. And then Sonny and I had a phone call, and like Sonny said, like, he's talked to Ralph many, many times. So It is. It is just fun, even just for us to be able to just enjoy it and do it. And that can be enough. It doesn't like you were saying. It doesn't have to be this big, huge revisionist idea. It's just like how it was in the old days. It's like, yeah, man, let's work on this project, let's put it together, make something cool, and put it out there for it to live. And that's good enough. And that's the reason we did it in the first place.
Absolutely. And it's cool, there's no there's absolutely nothing wrong with reintroducing this music and these bands to people. And it's really only completing a picture that's incomplete without them being reissued at this point.
Yeah.
Because so much has or is available, and I think you just be doing yourselves a disservice personally, and people who are the music writ large, by keeping a lid on it. And I think there is, there's a label who wants to do it, and no doubt there's an audience for it. I mean, it's like authentic, passionate music of that time. And I think the real thing driving a lot of this, this trend towards the interest in this stuff is the authenticity of these groups, and that feeling, and that that kind of dedication to ideals that don't really exist in the world for a lot of people anymore.
No, that's a really good point.
God.
I just thought it was weird when Solid Brass tried to pay us for like sort of the mastering using Kinko cards.
Amazing.
Sonny, I want you on weekly. I feel like I could run through a brick wall right now. Sonny, can you talk about the process? Let's say the phone call ended. You've got some stuff on your plate. I've got about 65 to-dos and I finish one. How do you take all of that information, all of those conversations, and distill that? And then secondly, what is your favorite part of doing these types of projects? And then if specifically for the Franklin one.
Well, I'll be honest, a lot of the time it just boils down to the bits and pieces that are of the highest quality. A lot of times in situations like this, there are scans of scans and what have you, and what actually turns out to be really high resolution or useful in some other regards, might kind of help sort of whittle that down and help make decisions, or make tough decisions easier, I guess I should say. I love the opportunity to get a peek into people's archives and see these old photos of shows and scenes in different places. Not just, of course, the bands and the artistry and the photos themselves, but also the people in the audience, and just the you can learn so much from the photos. You know what I mean? There's such a there's a real essence of the era that's captured in a lot of the pictures that I feel is goes some way to reconnecting me with that time. So I enjoy that opportunity a lot. And there wasn't tons and tons of photos for this, but what was there was really cool, and definitely the house in Tom's River and other places like that represented, and just like that, just seeing that spirit, and I guess it just, for me, triggers so many old memories of that time. It's just it's nice, it's a nice benefit of the job, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But how we chose what we chose was I think largely in some cases there were 4 or 5 similar pictures taken at one show, and it was just sort of a matter of choosing the one that was the most maybe complimentary to everybody, or just had a certain kind of energy to it. And there's other kind of more candid photos of the group on tour, sort of behind the scenes, that I think just evoke the I don't know, it captures the spirit of their camaraderie, and also just as a sort of they're kind of just this sort of moody, evocative, funny pictures of 20-year-old people smoking cigarettes and stuff. It's cool,
Yeah, I think cigarettes could be like a whole thing, because that era, like, there's some No Knife stuff that Mitch had sent me, and I joked with him. I was like, did you know every single shot of you in like 20 of these mini DVs, you're smoking?
Wow.
How funny. Probably so embarrassed.
He's like, God damn it. So,
we
but
weren't even sponsored.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking. But like, you said those one photos, that moment, those are really fun to look through. What about, even for both of you to hear it after Dan did his magic on remastering it?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard it. I have purposely not heard it.
Really?
When I work on projects like this, I don't listen to them.
Stop.
Because I have the Franklin records, the original ones, but I haven't listened to the remaster because I want to get the record and drop the needle on and be as wowed by it as intended, and not listen to it through my computer or in my car or anything else. I want the pure experience for myself.
God damn it.
The whole package moment.
That's right.
This is a fucking 90s podcast right now. This is we could have recorded this then and re-released it. It would have sounded fine. I really like that. What about for you, Brian? Did you hearing the difference, talking to Dan about doing it? Dan from Joshua, everybody.
Yeah, we totally, did a whole working with him. I've worked with him on some other projects, and he's always been great. And I really, the work that he does is pretty epic, because he is working from so many terrible sources oftentimes when he's working on this type of older stuff. One of the things about this package that we did is at the last minute we added like a bonus 7-inch into the packaging, because it was originally just going to be the 2 LPs that are in it. The 2 12 inches, and then we decided we were going to put 2 sort of unreleased demo songs from our 2 earliest records, and one of them was from a cassette tape, and the other one was just like a WAV file that I had encoded from some shitty cassette. and both instances, Dan was like, "I don't know what the hell you want me to do with these things because the source is so bad." And I was just like, "That's great." I said, "That's the whole point. Like, it doesn't have to be like perfect. It just has to represent what it was." And even still, he did a great job with it. It's so funny that he acted as if he couldn't fix it up, but it sounds great. For me, though, I will tell you honestly, because I still record music and everything, like I end up catching myself all the time. When I've listened to it, I've been like, man, if only we had like 4 more days. Because, and it's interesting because again, as you record music, there's a sense of like being like, oh man, it was so pure. It was recorded like you just did it in one take and everything like that. And I'm like, fuck that. I was like, I wish we had more chances to get it, get a different thing, more chances to do different overdubs, or more chances to put some like redo some of the vocals. But like the charm is, of course, the simplicity and the earnestness of the moment. And I think it's really great what Dan did, because it does sound as a cohesive whole. It sounds great. And it's really wonderful to get back and listen to those things. But again, there's also like, it was by necessity, not by choice, that those records sound like that. It was just kind of like what you could do at the time, Which
I think goes back to Sonny's thing about this authenticity of, and I think, other people had other time or studio time, and they did have plenty of takes, or they had an advanced computer early, or whatever it was. I like the random mistake. I like that wasn't totally in tune. I don't know. It just it just leaves a different taste than like going to the show and going, that's exactly what the record sounds like. Never been for me, I always liked the little imperfections, which, like you said, when you've got a day and a half, that's it.
Yeah, and I do agree with you that there is something in that, like, in this package, like the LP that's in this is called Go Kid Go, like the one album that we did with Roy, and the beginning of the album is just, a lot of bands did this, but it's just the tape running as we're kind of getting ready for the song to start. And so you hear, you really do hear, and Dan really kind of, that's the great thing about going back and remastering this stuff in this case, because I don't think Go Kid Go is mastered in any way. We just recorded it and then sent it to the printing plant, So to have someone that actually knows what they're doing and master this finally, and being able to then listen to like those things, I was just thought it was amazing. Like going back, and I felt like I was back in that room. I remember the room when we were recording it. I remember the noises. I was like, oh yeah, that was Ralph making that noise. Oh yeah, that was Greg yelling that thing. So it's really kind of cool to hear that kind of atmosphere. And like Sonny was saying, it kind of ties into the idea of when you look at like these archival photos, it just kind of puts you back in the memory of like, there were these 20-year-old kids that were just in the studio in Baltimore, not knowing what the hell they were doing, but they somehow figured out how to get themselves into a studio and record these songs that they thought were like, the most important things to them at that time. Just like any other band at that time, or any other band now. It's just it just is such an important moment to be able to document this thing that you and your friends create together. And I think that's just the beauty of the entire thing,
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Couldn't agree more. No, I think that's totally, couldn't agree more with that. I think it's all about creating art with your friends, and like beyond that, it's everything else is just immaterial, really. Everything else is just depends on the moment and the the flow of society going on around you, and sometimes I think I as much as many groups back in the 90s and probably just use that since we're talking about that era specifically, so many people just sort of wallowed in obscurity despite like in spite of just doing their thing and doing it for those reasons and enjoying it for that. It was like it was an exception rather than a rule for a long time that there was any kind of future in that.
Right.
And I think the bands that we're talking about here, Franklin and my own groups from that era, like we were, I think, functioning on a kind of a limited set of ideals. You know what I mean? Like we were doing it because we loved it. We were doing it with our friends. We got to hit the road for 6 weeks and a different place every day and just live our lives the way we wanted to. And anything beyond that was sort of imaginary.
Yeah.
And I think that motivation certainly still exists for certainly, of course it still exists, but I think it's easy to be distracted these days by so many other goals. I don't think there was ever, like, speaking for myself, there was never a goal really beyond early on just putting out a 7-inch, right, and then eventually a 12, then came an LP kind of thing, and then it was never really a goal beyond the next being able to hit the road,
right, and just get to the next show.
Yeah. And the people that you met along the way would kind of fold into your story, and new branches would grow out of that, but it was all very organic and very word of mouth, and there was just a real vibrancy and just a real like, the word community is so overused, but it's like that's what it was in the realest sense. And the most remarkable thing about it for me now in my 50s is that I still am in touch with so many of those people. My life is completely different than my parents, And that's because of being involved in this music.
Yeah, I don't feel alone. Like, it's, even though there's not a lot of people in the city I live in, like, I'm not alone. Like, there's just so many ways to, I don't know. It feels, that's what I think, the show was cool. I lost my hearing, or I played a show, but like, I can still text the guy that put on that show, and we have this in common or that in common, or they're still going to a show, right? They post that they're doing something. And then, those pieces are, I don't know. People are probably like, shut up. But I just think it is so, doing it to do it without any other goal, and to not think about this day. Like, in 95, whenever I picked up this record, I wasn't thinking I was going to do this later. And I'm not saying that happens, but it's just nice to be that day to day, be present. Because it's just, I don't know. I forget about it, right? You're in your world, you've got your thing, but like, to be present doing this, there's just a level, I don't know. I don't know if it's my mental health, but it eases everything about my day.
Yeah.
Good.
This is time to promo. Brian, what do you got working on? Sonny, what do you got working on? You always got to tell people what's next, right? Even though we're in the present, let me tell you about something else, kids.
Well, I mean, I guess the Go Kid Go remastered and expanded full LP and bonus 7-inch comes out in July, so we're super stoked about that. I have a band called Dead Best, and we have actually our third LP is coming out on Don Giovanni Records in August. And yeah, we'll just continue doing things. I have a feeling we'll probably explore doing possibly the reissues of the later Franklin records, but nothing's set in stone right now, but we've discussed it. We're just sort of seeing how this process works out for everybody and how everybody feels about it. But yeah, and just keep doing stuff,
Sonny?
Well, I have the benefit of having a hand in some other upcoming solid brass releases that are sort of starting to take shape now. So there's a Shotmaker reissue, and I think what's going to be a discography release for the San Diego band Space Horse. And maybe one or two other things in there somewhere as well. And outside of that, I'm just spending a lot of time. I moved to Tucson, Arizona last summer, and I'm living here, making art and painting and drawing a lot. And just trying to pass a body of work to do something with.
Continue being awesome.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I said to continue being awesome.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you. I'm trying.
Awesome. Anything else you want to mention? I thought that was perfect.
Oh, man, this is great. I appreciate being involved in this conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, so much for even wanting to chat.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm stoked that this happened, and I get an excuse to talk to you guys.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And Sonny, thanks again, bud.
My pleasure. Anytime.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye, guys.